Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to get thirsty, to fulfill that quench that thirst that is that need for pro wrestling punditry. It's our good friend Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
It's always good, and this is 2 times this week, so it's been great.
Double trouble here with
I'm
Paul
always
Pratt.
double trouble,
Double trouble, right? We got it is a non-stop news day here at Wrestling Inc. I have my laptop open in front of me right here in case big news breaks while we are recording this show. You will know about it right here today. I will not beat around the bush. Later on, after the news section we talk about here in just a second, we're going to hear the full audio from the WWE Q3 Earnings Call that'll have Vince and Nick Khan and I believe Stephanie. It's happening about an hour from now as we're recording this, so we don't know what's on it. But if there's anything buzzy, you are going to hear it right away because we're going to pair that with the news, and that'll go out this afternoon. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we'll dive into the mailbag. We are going to look at the AEW Full Gear card, what matches you guys are most excited about. But without further ado, let's jump right into it here. News you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. Yeah, WrestleVotes. Earlier today, tweeted out very ominously, a small number of talents is expected to be released today. Now, this comes on the heels of PWInsider.com reporting that longtime WWE Senior Vice President of Creative Sales, Stan Stansky, real name, was reportedly released on Wednesday. He joined WWE back in 2006 as VP of Creative Services, was promoted in March of 2012 to the SVP role. His departure shocked many within the company on Wednesday, with one person describing the departure as, quote, the ultimate proof no one is safe, unquote. And then another quote, yet another reminder, this isn't the same company it was a year ago, end quote. Paul, what is your take here on the looming releases we think are coming? And this one release that it does sound like has happened, though I've not had it confirmed. And it sounds like there were some other office jobs released this week as well.
Well, every time they do one of these quarterly reports, it seems like we get to see people being released. Every time they talk about their finances, new people get let go. For Stan Stansky, having that name growing up is already unfortunate.
Right.
I think, but for Stan Stansky, I'm sure that he will bounce back. Obviously, you do not reach the level of executive vice president of a global corporation like a WWE without having an incredible resume behind you. So I'm sure he'll bounce back, but it's something that is wildly unfortunate for anyone heading into the holidays, unemployed.
Yeah, I hadn't even really I had put 2 and 2 together. I've been moving so fast. You're right. Holidays around the corner here. And
3 weeks till Thanksgiving, right? So
some radio stations here in Chicago already playing Christmas music. A little early for me. Yeah,
my shoot job is in working in the retail space, so I am out around, and I'm expecting to hear the first, all I want for Christmas is you anytime now.
Okay, fair enough. But you're right. Yeah, these quarterly reports usually do spell doom and gloom because that's when they look to be cutting some fat to prepare to be able to, show growth to their investors. I'm wondering if I don't know what exactly the report will be. If they're releasing people to show that they're saving money, that may be a sign that maybe not their strongest report. I don't know. I guess we'll find out here in just a little bit. Could be great, could be blow away. But also what I feel really bad about for this talent right now, Paul, is just because, Ring of Honor gone, right? New Japan Pro Wrestling really not capable of operating, in North America. Impact Wrestling's role has become so diminished. And, it was exactly what we all thought was going to happen with AEW pulled out, this vacuum effect. I mean, it almost it seems to have eviscerated that. NWA is not running regularly right now. Fortunately, GCW is stepping up, but there's we had Brett on yesterday.
By the way, great interview with Brett.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we had Brett on Tuesday, and hearing him have to struggle with the fact that there are so many top talents out there right now, and you can't work with everybody. I mean, all of these people are going to get thrown to the wolves right now, and it's very competitive.
It is very competitive, but I also think that For in-ring talent, I think that this is a great time to be returned to the world. I definitely do see that, because I think that people are hungry for live events again. I look at what GCW is doing, and there is a plethora of smaller promotions out there that are doing great work. Places like West Coast Pro here in the San Francisco Bay Area is bringing in really top name talents from around the world, and as well as the GCW environment. And I do think that we could see, places like Impact picking people up. We've already just this week on NWA Power saw the debut of some Ring of Honor talent there. So
sure,
it is a great time. And I think that for people who come out of WWE, as long as they've been smart with their finances prior to this release, there is still going to be a big upside.
I see your optimism, Paul. I guess it's maybe the pragmatic realist, in me, that there's opportunities out there, but not opportunities of real meaningful work, right? Not the kind of money we're talking about, not buy a house kind of money we're talking about. And while there are opportunities, how many opportunities of worth are there out right now? I mean, Chicago, we have more storefront theaters per capita, right? But we only have one Steppenwolf. We have the Goodman too. Actually, we've got a couple nice theaters. But that's the thing. Not every theater is created equally, and you want more Steppenwolves, and we have a lot less Steppenwolves in the room right now.
Well, one of the things that I think that the downside, I think, really for a lot of these people who come from an environment like a WWE, or presumably at some point we'll see this from AEW. One of the comments that stands out to me is when I interviewed Chelsea Green a while back, and she said that the biggest distinction was that she and Matt were not used to having to be back to being independent contractors, right, in the sense that we think, meaning they have to grind and hustle, because even though they are independent contractors under WWE's terminology, they work for a company. They've got a guaranteed paycheck every week. It's coming in, they show up, they do their work. When you return to an environment like they're going to be returning to now, it is about the hustle. It is about the grind. It's going to be the hungry are going to be fed, and the ones who are not as used to that grind anymore are going to be probably flailing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a really rough time. And I also think about how, if you're savage capitalists, right, Vince McMahon and Nick Khan, cutting talent now is beneficial to you, because, when you go and maybe you want to renegotiate with these talents, and they have less negotiating power because there are less places to work, and because AEW has kind of
maxed out.
I mean, their 18-month sprint of collecting talent sure is slowed down rather quickly, Paul, right? Never been a better time to cut somebody loose and maybe try to, have the power on your side to negotiate a deal that's more in your favor. It's a really bad time. I know, and I know you're so optimistic about it, but I feel like it's a really rough time to be a notable name pro wrestler who's just out on the free market. There's a couple exceptions we'll talk about here in a second, but in general, I think it's pretty rough right now.
Man, what it makes me just wish really strongly is that a place like Impact had a better television home where they could be seen by more people. That's one of the things. Impact is by far one of my favorite viewing experiences of the week. And I just wish they had a better platform where more people could see it, which would make them more exciting, I think, to some talents.
For whatever it's worth, I'm really surprised Billy has not been able to make a deal with WGN to bring the NWA to WGN here in Chicago. He's Mr. Chicago, right? It goes like Bozo the Clown, Billy Corgan, the Dailies. That's what we've got here, all right? Bill Murray, maybe, I think he's actually maybe top, but pretty damn close. I don't know how he hasn't been able to finagle that one yet.
Well, I think that part of what we see with places like NWA or even GCW and a couple of the other notable yet smaller companies is I think that there's a really small executive team, and there's only so much bandwidth that they can cover at any given time, right? So you were talking to Brett Lauderdale, and having worked with Brett on just a couple of GCW shows, Brett is so hands-on with everything that getting him to delegate something to you like is like pulling teeth because he knows it needs to be done, but he is accustomed to doing it himself. So when it comes to things like negotiating deals or things like that with somebody like a Billy Corgan, you know, I think that he's in a similarly small capacity in terms of people he trusts with his vision, and then probably would want to be so integral in those conversations.
Yeah, well, I saw the man pull out the last of whatever hair is there in his tea shop, and you know, it is what it is. All right. Anyway, we talk about free agents. Let's take a look at a couple. Well, one current free agent and another potential free agent. We'll start with the current one. So, an update here on Bray Wyatt. Fascinating bit of news reporting here from Fightful that really got a lot of people talking yesterday. So, during his final few months at WWE, Bray Wyatt was no longer liked by Vince McMahon. He had become outspoken when he felt creative was bad, and this led to his strained relationship with Vince McMahon. Can you imagine sad artist Vince? I don't really think of Vince as an artist that often, but he is, isn't he?
Vince
McMahon is an artist. Like, his feelings got hurt because Bray felt his art was better than Vince's art. Isn't that what this is all about?
The interesting thing to take away from that is I mean, I strongly don't believe there's a lack of belief for me that Vince sees this as any kind of an art. I think he sees it as decision making.
This is art. It's art. It's art. Of course it's art. He makes movies. That's what he said.
I don't know. I you know, yeah, okay, go on.
Okay, anyway, so furthermore, Wyatt and Orton were reportedly, quote, not happy with the creative direction or outcome of their WrestleMania 37 match, which was changed 2 days before the show. It was noted the original plan was for Orton to take time off after the match, but it was Wyatt who ended up being written off TV. In addition, several superstars approached Orton and Wyatt and expressed to them that they felt bad about plans for Mania and their match getting changed. And although Orton, Wyatt, Alexa Bliss, that storyline lasted for 6 months, it's being reported here that there was never a true creative end game for the story. The report added that
there was no creative like payoff for the story.
Well, you can't have payoff without an end game. The report added that WWE creative was told about frustration around the burned Fiend angle, specifically the size, weight, and movement of the suit. Wyatt told WWE writers that he believed the suit was too heavy and that he would have trouble wrestling with it, and this led to the suit being scrapped in time for WrestleMania. So, yes, Paul, it's two artists here embroiled in a feud, it would seem, you know, and there's that weird lingering Johnny and Bruce comment about how he wasn't medically cleared that we don't really understand what's going on with either. I got to hear from this guy, Paul. I'm tired of the teases. I want to hear from this guy now. He's allowed to talk, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he will probably reveal all in his own time and in his own way. Like I do see him as an actual artist. I think that the reason that he has had such significant issues with the creative direction of his character and the creative direction that they wanted to take the breadth of his characters, including the puppets, which I think were of his own making, is because he is an artist versus, you know, turning that over to a creative team that has no real investment in this other than like, oh, we want to take this story somewhere else. And when you know, my background, I am a writer, right? And I do creative writing as well as journalism. And if I am envisioning a character in a certain way and I were to see it brought to life in a way that doesn't reflect that at all, I would be pissed. I would be legitimately pissed. And I think that that's kind of reflective of this. Not to mention, like, there were so many elements of that story that I thought were super compelling in the moment, and then they just got dropped. Like, remember Randy getting burned and like Randy having like and then 2 weeks later it was gone.
Dude,
and I was I thought that was such an missed opportunity. I could see like this disfigured Randy Orton taking a whole new tormented, like serial killer type of vein himself.
You see, but you were the only person during that period that I was talking to where you're like, I like this. I'm enjoying this right now. I was so off on a distant land, my friend. And this confirms to me what was in my gut, which is like, this is going nowhere. Like, I don't know why I'm invested in these people. Weird things are just kind of happening. Like, it never had meat to me. I get why Bray would be frustrated, but it is so interesting just to think about Vince. Like, he's so, like, his creativity, his art is the best art, and your art can't be better than my art. We don't talk about Vince enough as an artist, you know?
I'm not convinced that was the conversation. I think that it was more like, no, we don't want to do that. I don't think that's going to sell enough toys. I don't think that's going to impress people during my annual meeting. I'm not convinced it was like, my art is better than yours.
Maybe I don't know. It just sounds, I mean, again, Wyatt was outspoken when he felt creative was bad. This led to a strained relationship with Vince, because Vince maybe it is art by capitalism, which is a form of art. That's how Vince is making his decisions, right? I don't think that the art that you are presenting to me is art that I can make as much money on, is perhaps taking 4 performance talents, making them your little puppet people. We got you a little stable, and I could go off and sell all these T-shirts. Why won't you play ball with my art by capitalism?
We were just talking about Billy Corgan, and the obvious correlation to me here is the conflict that we see quite often between musicians who get signed to a record deal based on whatever creativity they put forth, and then the line of communication is like, we love you, we want to sign you, we want the world to discover you, we love everything about you, and then we're going to put out this record which has changed everything about you. Record labels do this to musicians all the time. It's like, no, we need a hit record. Like, we need that song.
I guess, but again, it's like, whose art is right? Vince. It's just the idea of Vince as an artist. Anyway, the other free agent I wanted to talk about, potential free agent, PWInsider.com, saying a lot of internal talk in WWE about the future of Kyle O'Reilly. His current deal is set to expire in December. No word on if O'Reilly is looking to re-sign with WWE or if he's interested in becoming a free agent to look for work with AEW, New Japan, or other promotions. But this seems like a foregone conclusion to me. This guy is going to AEW.
I pray, because the idea of that reunion that we're looking for, the Undisputed Era reunion in AEW would be beyond. I would lose my mind.
Well, you got to get, I think Roddy's at least another year, I think, in NXT. I mean, he was the one who decided to resign, if reports are correct. I don't know for how long, but I think that he's maybe locked in a little bit longer than these guys.
That's fine. The Four Horsemen had 50 different variations of it. And the original variation wasn't even the best.
Well, Roddy was the 4th member to join, right? The core was originally Red Dragon and Adam Cole.
So, if we're using that correlation, that kind of ideology, which I think is the obvious comparison, the original version of the Four Horsemen wasn't the best. The second version of the Horsemen wasn't the best. It was the third version that was finally the best.
Reed Cooper here, by the way, and I've done a horrible job integrating the comments today. But throwing Roddy under the bus, you don't need Roddy. He came in later, right?
Well, by the way, Reed Cooper is one of my most staunch supporters of my Twitch channel, and he is 100% that person who is like not afraid to be the voice of dissent. So okay. I appreciate you on this one, Reed.
I'm the last thing on the Kyle O'Reilly stuff. This really explains why he is just playing the fodder for Van Wagner right now at NXT. Like, I feel like he's told them, I'm not sticking around. They know that they're booking him as such, and he'll be gone, by New Year's Day. Right.
I strongly don't think that they want him to stay around that much. I don't think they're that interested.
Well, I think Hunter would. I think Hunter's going to miss his friend. I feel like.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think when it comes down to the decision making, we're talking about a group of people who carried NXT on their backs as the most interesting element of WWE across the board, in my opinion, the Undisputed Era, for a good year. And the people beyond the decision makers at NXT specifically never really saw value in them. If you're going to tell me that the leader of that group was going to be called up as like a second-rate manager with a new name, that says they don't value what they contributed at all. So they're like, who cares? Send them away. And I can't wait for them to end up reuniting in AEW and tearing the house down.
Well, lastly here in free agency news, Fightful reporting that Juice Robinson's contract with New Japan set to expire in January. He signed a multi-year deal in 2019. He also with Impact. Since signing with New Japan, no word on if he's in contract talks with New Japan, but it's believed he's going to receive multiple offers from other promotions. Not everybody can go to AEW, but I feel like he's a little bit, he's a broken toy that went out and he maybe became more broken, fixed himself. I'm not really sure. He went out on a journey. I don't know that he's going to enjoy that. I don't know that WWE would get Juice Robinson at this point in his career.
I think that they may not get him, but I think that they would make an offer for him because he is that buzzy person who has gone out and made a name for himself. I think that there will be people certainly advocating for him in WWE.
All right. Well, lastly here, Paul, very odd story here. Cannot wait to get your thoughts. And of course, then we're going to hear the audio from the Q3 earnings call and we'll dive in the mailbag. But Kalisto, he tweeted out what I thought was a very nice note last night after Dynamite. He said, prayed and talked to John J-O-H-N Brody Lee before my match. Thank you for showing me your home AW and giving me the strength and energy I needed. I need it today. Forever in my heart, Hermano. Now, Jericho called out Kalisto for misspelling John. Now, Kalisto spelled it J-O-H-N. John Huber's real name, J-O-N, no H. Now, some fans clap back at Jericho about this kind of trolling diss, taking away from the statement. To wit, John Huber's wife, Amanda Hubert, chimed in saying, yeah, not an excuse to spell someone's name wrong if your name dropping. And I feel like the implication here, and I don't want to put words into Amanda Huber's mouth, but does she feel he's trying to clout chase, I guess, by using John's name here? I'm very confused by this, Paul.
I don't even really want to speculate on this. I think that as beloved as John Huber was, obviously,
right,
I think that the canonization of an individual at some point reaches a tipping point where it's just like, just stop. You know what I mean? Like, just stop. And I think that in this case, an individual who might have crossed the line, like, in terms of the former Kalisto crossing a line and saying something but can you really blame him? Because everybody in that company has done it repeatedly. People throughout the industry have done it to the point of like ad nauseum.
Well, and to me, the thing that's in my head is like Kalisto and John spent a lot of time around each other at WWE. They were there, signed.
They worked an entire tag team program together more than one.
And I would imagine that two people that are frustrated with their creative maybe actually had a bond. Right? Like maybe this is not like just like maybe it was genuine, right? I'm pretty sure. I know some people have said that English is his first language. I don't know that. I think he's from Chicago, so I actually don't know that that's true. But
if you're gonna bitch, like he also misspelled your. It's a conjunction, Y-O-U''re. He misspelled that too. Obviously, he doesn't spell very well. So like, but the fact of the matter is that like I think that it's difficult when this is my thing. Like it's difficult to begin to make boundaries around, who is or isn't clout chasing when everybody veritably has felt like they were clout chasing on this situation. And it's like, what's wrong with him being the one, like what's wrong with, what is it there behind the scenes that we don't know about that made this not as okay?
All right, Paul. Well,
two people attack him for it.
Okay. Well, Paul, I want to thank you so much for joining me at the top of the show to talk all of the news of the past 24 hours. We got a little bit more to go to here at the mailbag. Of course, we want to thank WWE for holding that Q3 earnings call. I don't really know that I feel like I need to thank them. I think legally they have to do it.
Required to.
They're required to do it.
They're required
So,
to do it.
thank you, government. Thank you, big government, for keeping Vince's feet to the fire there, holding him accountable. So today's poll question at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow if you want to vote in the poll. Based off of something happened on Dynamite last night. We haven't even talked about Dynamite on the show here today. Miro was revealed as the one to replace Jon Moxley in his match against Orange Cassidy in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. He then defeated Orange Cassidy, and he's going to go on to face Bryan Danielson for the world title, or a world title shot at AEW Full Gear. And Fightful reporting this was a very last-minute decision. Now, before we get to the poll question, how'd you feel about how all this played out, Paul?
Well, there were so many things about Dynamite. Like, number one, talking about the clout chasing thing, like, I did not like the fact that they made Jon Moxley's life choices a focal point of this program. It made me feel very uncomfortable, and I think it adds undue stress to an individual who's trying to refocus his life on his health and well-being. But in terms of the actual content of this thing, there were a lot of things that were very unusual. Like, I didn't understand exactly how they decided to put heat on Eddie Kingston because CM Punk refused to join the tournament. And therefore, it's like somehow Eddie Kingston's fault and the fans should boo Eddie Kingston because Punk wouldn't take this spot. But
Punk's promo, he shit the bed, man. And I apologize for the profanity, but that was the worst Punk promo I've ever heard. He looked lost. He looked like he looked like what Bischoff has been saying about him, like gave him the yips or something up top. Like, he was fumbling words. I thought that was really weak. Really, really, really weak. Very weak.
And it was, but between the fact that he was doing all that stuff, I like the last thing that somebody who's going into a rehab needs is the pressure of the world. Like, don't let us down. We know you can do the rah-rah thing. Voice your support privately, give him some calls, but don't put all that pressure on somebody because he's trying to walk away from the pressure of the wrestling world so he can focus on self. You don't need to add that while he's doing it. But
okay.
But the thing with that, like, I was like, did I misunderstand something here? We're supposed to hate Eddie Kingston because Punk will not take this spot in the tournament. And therefore, because of Eddie Kingston, we're being deprived of CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan. Was that what I'm to understand? Because
it was like he wanted to say, because I'm having a match with Eddie at Full Gear, I can't be in this tournament and I can't have this match, but he didn't quite know how to say that in an eloquent way, right? Without kind of completely burning the curtain, I guess, so to speak.
I don't know. It was like, what the hell? What? Like, why do I blame Eddie Kingston? You could have stepped into this match, but you didn't. So you're the one I should blame. Like, look what you made me do. No, I didn't actually make you do that. Like, but in terms of Miro going into this, like, number one, anytime somebody snaps Orange Cassidy in half like a twig, I'm here for it.
Wonderful. Okay.
Y'all can hate me. Orange Cassidy's not my thing. Miro looked really strong in this. I think that he should look really strong in it, and I'm more interested in the prospect of Miro versus Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson than the other.
Okay, I want to jump in real quick. We're real short on time. By the way, the poll question was, which Full Gear match you most excited about? A little over 200 votes, kind of a blowaway, 61.4 for Omega Page. Then we had Miro Danielson, 18.4 right behind that, Punk and Kingston, and then everything else, 3.6. Just to kind of respond real quick to your how they used Moxley's situation and how that made you uncomfortable. I totally get that. I actually completely see where you're coming from. It's not exactly how I reacted to it. What it feels like to me is AEW kind of they get this posture when they realize there's a chance to look very different than WWE, right? They could send a moralistic message. They could show that they are nicer, better, more compassionate, progressive people. And anytime they get a chance to send that message, it's like the whole team decides they're gonna get behind it and send that message. And I don't necessarily want to say it's good or bad, but I found it very interesting that Tony was the one to put this out. As you say, like, wanting to make this a private matter. This is not the way to go about making this a private matter. Why the decision was made to have Tony do? Why, like, if I was going to rehab, I don't know that I'd want Raj. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'd maybe talk to why would Raj be doing it? That's a whole different question. But, it's just a little odd. Like most people's bosses don't kind of announce this stuff, right? So anyway.
When Excalibur started the show and said, our thoughts are with Jon Moxley and his whole family, we wish him nothing but the best. Perfect.
Could have been it. I agree.
I think that monologue made it sound so self-serving, I've always been taught, do nice things or do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Don't do the right thing and then announce it to the world and expect people to be like, oh my God, you're so amazing for doing the right thing. It took a twist that set, and I think it's partially because I've been through that experience.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the show here for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by Christy Olson for a Houseman Happy Hour to close the week out. Mystery interview for tomorrow. I have a huge interview I'm doing tonight, but I think I want to sit on it for Monday. We'll see how I feel, though. But come on back tomorrow. More great show. WrestlingInc.com is the home for the Wrestling Inc. Daily. We're on all your favorite social media platforms. And, of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live at night after the big shows, including tomorrow night after SmackDown. So come back, check it out. And then I guess I can break this here. Next Saturday during AEW Full Gear, we're going to do a watch-along on our Twitch channel. Paul said he's open to it. Liam will be there. Yeah. Jesse will be there. I think Josh is going to be there. Maybe Raj will be there. I'll be on site at Full Gear, so I don't know if I'll be able to pop in. But a lot of stuff happening here at Wrestling Inc. Paul, anything you want to put over before we wrap it up today?
Absolutely. This Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be doing live streaming the East Bay Pro Wrestling / All Pro Wrestling Young Lions Cup tournament. It's going to be gathering some of the great independent young stars from across the country, from some of whom we've seen recently on AEW, among other places. So join us on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Pollo Del Mar. That again, 7 p.m. start time, 6:30 kickoff on twitch.tv/Pollo Del Mar.
And just as we're at the door here, guys, the Showbuzz Daily numbers just came in as we were wrapping up. Wednesday's Dynamite, 878,000 viewers, under 1 million. They're back on Wednesday nights regularly. Something to digest. So we'll talk about it tomorrow. That's a great little tease. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you then. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.